أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العظيم دست يا سيدي مدى يا رسول الله. Support. Asking for support and a connection to divine presence. Subhanallah, Sultanallah, Nabi Muhammad alayhi salam. Subhanallah, Sultanallah, Nabi Muhammad alayhi salam. Subhanallah, Sultanallah, Nabi Muhammad alayhi salam. Anything that helps you establish that connection, that spiritual connection, the closeness that you can try to open up the divine knowledge and get yourself out of the way is good to begin either a Hijama session or anything to do with knowledge or teaching. And we begin by saying Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, which is in God's name, most gracious, most merciful. And La hawla wa la quwwata illa billahi al-azim, that there's no strength and no power except from God. These are reminders that we are not teaching ourselves or conveying what is authentic teaching. And in order to convey what is authentic teacher, of course, we need a authentic teacher to be teaching us. So really the first thing that any of you as students should be doing is making absolutely sure that the teaching that you're receiving is authentic. So first let me say welcome to the introductory class to the Hijama cupping therapy course. And this is going to be an easy kind of laid back course. Today we're just pretty much going to cover kind of an orientation introduction to what we're going to be covering over the next 10 courses or 10 classes. And it's, be easy and just introduce a little bit about myself and tell you kind of an overview of what's to be expected. So relax, get a cup of coffee. I have coffee. Normally I tell people to give me 100% of their attention. Because the more attention you're giving and the more respect you're giving, the more you're receiving in return. But for this class, relax, have a good time, and get a cup of coffee and take your shoes off, put them up on the desk, whatever you like to do. So back to this point of finding the teacher and making sure that the teacher is authorized before you embark on a journey of knowledge, and especially sacred knowledge, because that's what this course is covering, is a sacred knowledge. And so many people today now go shopping for answers on the internet, and they ask you, what evidence do you have, what hadith do you have to support what you're saying, and they say, give me the dalil on that, brother. And it's not the correct way. It's not it's not a method that you're supposed to incorporate when you're trying to get divine knowledge. What you should be doing is making absolutely certain that the teacher who's teaching you is an authorized source, and when you put your trust in that teacher, then you should listen and learn. It's an example that is contained in the Holy Quran with Moses' teacher, Al-Qadr alayhi salam, who was a prophet of Allah, and he said to everybody that asked him during this period of time, is anybody more knowledgeable than you? And he said, of course not, I'm the prophet of Allah, the prophet of God, the one who knows everything. And that night, God revealed to him in a dream that there was, in fact, a valley full of people that knew more than Moses knew, and there was a valley behind that with, thousands of other people who knew more than Moses knew. And upon that, any good believer would want to have a teacher and teach him more of the things that he didn't understand. So he asked God to please introduce him to a teacher that could show him, the things that he didn't understand or didn't know. And the whole thing's in Surah Al-Kahf. You can try to get an English version copy of the Quran and read that. Some of the translations are different. Some are richer spiritually and more accurate than others. So even though the Quran is, infallible in Arabic, the translations are often, a little misguided. So hopefully you'll find a good one. The Muhammad Assad translation is one that I favor, and probably one that would be of good use. So there's others out there, but for the most part, you'll hopefully find something that will give you some insights into what that story is about. But pretty much it talks about a teacher who actually knew that a king was coming to destroy a boat, and he, violated the person's property right by destroying the boat and putting a hole in the boat. And it was only because he didn't want the king to come and steal the man's boat, because then he wouldn't have the boat to be able to fish and take care of his family. So it was only a good-hearted, gesture that made him do what he did. And then there was a boy that was going to be a problem for his family. And that boy, came in front of him, and through a power of maybe like a Tai Chi thing or something, he put his hand up and the boy fell dead. And it was because that boy was going to grow up to be a burden on his parents, a little tyrant. And his parents were extremely good people, pious people. And God didn't want that for him, and they relieved them of that stress and that, problem of having such a difficult child. And then they repaired a wall. They went on and repaired a wall, and the whole story is there. But pretty much each step of the way, Moses, was shocked that he was doing things that were typically or theoretically outside of the scope of Sharia. And he would question him, and each one of those questions led to him telling him, I told you didn't have the patience to learn from me. So some of you may think that I'm putting myself on the level of Moses' teacher, and I assure you I am not. I am not a big shake. I don't have, vast amounts of knowledge, and I, have been given a little slice of authority and information to be able to teach people about Hijama. And not only teach people, but to grant them an ijaza as well. And then also, of course, to practice Hijama myself, which I've been doing for many years, and I didn't have the permission to teach for quite some time. I'm sure there's a wisdom in that. But during that period of time where I didn't have the permission to teach, and I was only able to practice Hijama, that the industry kind of went out of control, and now everybody's doing it, and they're doing it badly. So this is an attempt to try to clarify a lot of the misconceptions that are, everywhere with Hijama now, and to try to turn around the abuses that are now taking place, which people are just making up all sorts of stuff that don't have any kind of real true training or authority to be doing what they're doing. So we'll go into that in quite, some detail. But back to the story of Moses, they went and they erected a wall, and, they were very hungry and thirsty, and they, were sweating and working hard, and the people of the town wouldn't pay them or give them, any food or recompense for what they had done for the work in erecting the wall. But it wasn't the reason why the wall was erected. The wall was erected because there was a treasure that was under the wall, and if it hadn't been fixed, then the two orphans that lived in the house would not have found their inheritance, basically. So Moses' teacher went through each one of these stages, and he refused to be patient and quiet and not ask any questions of Moses, or of Moses' teacher, El-Kidder. And as a result, he said that, we're going to go our separate ways, and Moses lost out on a huge opportunity. It's all to say that, not to compare again myself with that, no, certainly not, but it is to say that there are people, there's thousands of people in the valley and 1,000 people behind that valley that had more knowledge than Moses had. And that's true today, too, that there are people out there that have, enormous amounts of knowledge. And it's knowledge that is poured into the heart. It's not knowledge that is memorized or, found through university studies or, academia. It's knowledge which comes from spirituality. It comes from the ilm, the knowledge being poured into a person's heart. So it was said by Prophet Muhammad that he poured the knowledge into Abu Bakr Siddiq's heart. not into his brain. He didn't send him to class. He didn't send him and memorize. But as a result, these people possessed a huge, capacity for reiterating the hadith, the sayings of the prophet, verbatim. I mean, absolutely perfect, without any error whatsoever. And the brain capacity of, an average person, even an extraordinary person, wouldn't be able to do that. So this knowledge of the heart is what is important and what is critically important in finding somebody who is truly authorized and has been given permission to teach a subject matter. There's different kinds of teaching, and most of the teaching today is going to university and studying for 4 years and getting a degree. And this is, what my teacher used to call positive knowledge. And it's not the kind of, we're getting some rain here, so if you hear that noise, that's rain coming off of the chimney of the house. That positive knowledge is, not the same kind of knowledge that I'm talking about with the heart knowledge. The heart knowledge is really what is critically important. And I can't claim to be that person, that has that kind of heart knowledge yet. I've tasted it, and I'm, hopefully moving in that direction. But I can tell you that the people who have taught me absolutely do have it and can be relied upon, completely for what they're telling you as being absolutely factually correct. So that's the authority of this class, and that is what the teaching is that we're offering. Is a teaching that's been handed down from generation to generation to generation to generation, all the way back to Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So in the small little tiny category of Hijama, I was given permission by my teacher to teach Hijama, and that puts me in the chain of people all the way back to Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam in that one little category. There are sheikhs or teachers who take over, a school, or not a school, but a method of teaching, tariqah, basically, that have the authority to lead that entire group. And that's not me. I'm just in this very limited area. And I'm happy to be in that limited area and being able to offer that. So that's my, degree, so to speak, or my certificate. And it can be your degree and your certificate through the authorized ijaza system of education, which is far, far, far superior to anything that you'll find in academia. Academia, you pay a tuition and you are expecting something in return if you can, get the grades. And getting the grades is simply a matter of passing tests and memorization and, sometimes kissing up to the teacher. It's, if anybody, has ever told you what college is like, a lot of it is political. And your grades can get better by, smoozing the teacher, being a teacher's assistant, or, a number of different things. So there are, methodologies that are true and tried and, are truly Islamic. And then there's methodologies that are off course. And most of these universities are off course now. They're providing you with a degree, and it's really just a business. And it's a business that promotes and gives out. Excuse me, a little coffee. I told you could have some. It's, of course, it's a business, and they're stamping you that, you are an acceptable product in this category of accounting, or this category of being a doctor, or this category. And it is just truly a business. I mean, kids in America now, they go into debt slavery with these student loans. Some of them with Ivy League schools are hundreds of thousands of dollars in debt. And, I mean, if you just took that money and invested it in a business right away and had a little bit of business training, you could establish and start a business like a greenhouse and have a very happy, productive, healthy life. Never have to work for a corporation, which is unhealthy. Never have to work for an institution like a medical facility that is selling, pharmaceutical drugs. And, you never have to, be a debt slave and continue down a path of being forced into, paying off all your old loans for an education that really isn't worth very much to begin with. So Ijaza is completely different from that, and we'll go into quite a bit more detail about what Ijaza is and what Isnad is, and I told you this would be more of an introductory course, but you got to get into this stuff a little bit before you understand what direction that we're taking and why it is you're sitting here listening to this course now. You could go on the internet now and get, vast, huge amounts of free information that is absolutely destructive because it's not worth anything. It misleads people. It gives you, false information. It makes all sorts of representations from people's imagination, and they are not protecting the Sunnah as much as they swear that they're protecting the Sunnah of Prophet Muhammad. The Sunnah, again, being the example that he left us, and more specifically, the example of Hijama that he left us. And they make all sorts of these claims that, you can do it, when you're not supposed to do it, if it's an emergency, and you can use plastic cups, and you can, just saying all sorts of different things. And then even when they, assume this position of expertise, they are going way beyond the bounds of what they should be doing, really trying to become, medical people and claiming that they're able to help people on a much wider scale than what they're really, able to do, even if they were, legitimate hijama artists or practitioners. So we'll go into that quite a bit, and we'll try to understand a little bit more what ijaza means. What I'd recommend to you is to search and try to find out a little bit more about myself and about my teacher, and to be certain that the knowledge that you're getting, because you shouldn't pollute yourself with knowledge that is not completely trustworthy. You should never expose yourself to anything that is not, completely trustworthy. And I can tell you, that you're a caravan coming through the desert, and you're incredibly thirsty, and you want knowledge and you want understanding, which is represented in that thirst. But I'm standing there, telling you that this pond that you're about to let your camels or horses, drink out of, and that you're going to drink out of yourself. I'm telling you, unselfishly, without any benefit to myself, that pond is poison, and it will make you incredibly sick, and it might even kill you. And I'm saying that, a mile down the road, you just have to, pursue it a little bit further. But a mile down the road, there's a fresh spring, and it's clean, beautiful, water that will, suffice all of your needs. You can, take as much as you like. It's free. But people are suspicious and, saying, no, you probably want to try to sell me water, or you want to keep this water for yourself, or then nature comes into play, and they're thirsty too, so they want to drink. And the knowledge on the internet is the same kind of thing. People, they just want it. They want to be that medical person that people respect, so they want to rush into trying to become a hijama practitioner themselves. And then, of course, they want to make a career out of it, and then they want to make money out of it. And it becomes a horrible intention. And all the while, again, they're telling you that, they're absolute experts, and they learn from experts, and nobody's better than they are, and they're, really good at marketing themselves and wonderful at promoting themselves, and they have the fanciest websites to promote what they're doing. And it all looks, wonderful on the surface. They have the gloves, and they have the white coat, and, they put the mask on, and they have, the clinic with the proper chairs and everything. That doesn't mean anything, and you shouldn't be deceived or fooled by those people. So, this course is designed for everybody to try to get them to understand what true hijama is really all about, and what cupping is all about. And now the industry with, sports medicine and physical therapy and massage and There's many different, alternative practitioners that are incorporating cupping now into the practice, and they're not doing it properly either. They're doing all sorts of things which are actually harmful to people, and making all sorts of claims which are not correct. So we're trying to bring that all back, and we're not trying to discourage people from moving forward and doing something after they've been properly trained. Of course not. It's a great benefit to mankind to be using these things, because it's very inexpensive and it works. So it's our duty to try to promote and let people understand exactly what this is all about. But it must be done properly, and it must be done by people who understand what they're doing. It must be done by clean people. That's also incredibly important. So the Hijama process, again, is to vet people, morally, for high character and for the spiritual acumen. And not everybody has that. It's just like everybody doesn't have the smarts, to do certain things. They're born without the ability to think as well as some other people. And some people are born with better looks than others, and you can't be a runway model, but others are born with a physical, ability that others don't have, that could run a race and win the Olympics, but other people don't have that gift. The gift of healing is the same thing. It's either you're born with it or you're not. It can be cultivated, and and people can help you on the level of an Olympic coach that can improve somebody who is Olympian standards. But you can't take somebody who doesn't have that natural ability and make them an Olympian the next day. So in this case, we're trying to use this course to introduce people across the board about what Hijama actually is, so they are not cheated by people who are making all sorts of these false claims. But we're also trying to find the gems, in the bunch that show promise in being able to be true Hijama practitioners. And those people go on to do what we call a Hijama intensive, and it's just a week-long course, which is pretty much like a retreat. It's more spiritually kind of focused to try to get at the heart of the people actually wanting to do this. And then after that, if you continue with this Hijama program, you then get to be trained for free, because it becomes our obligation at that point to teach and train people, because we're doing this for God. We're not doing this for money or for business. So, we'll explore all these avenues. There's a whole bunch of information that is important for people not only just seeking out a true Hijama practitioner, but for people who think that they might have this acumen as a healer to go on and actually contribute and do something positive with this incredible Sunnah. So Hijama is, they say it's a cure for every illness. And, if you cut off your arm and put a cup on your, stub, and extract a little blood out of that, you're not going to grow a new arm. So we're not talking about physical, disability necessarily. But we're talking about illness and disease. And the reason why it's a cure for every illness and disease is because it really cleans the body of the dead blood cells and the poison that's inside of the cardiovascular system. And in so doing, you're freeing up that system to do the job that it is able to do best, which is heal itself. And you're like unclogging a radiator. When you flush a radiator in a car, all the gook and stuff that is built up in the radiator causes the car to overheat. And heat is the engine's worst enemy. And without it, you're going to end up cracking a block or, overheating the car, or and it will become, something you can't drive after a while. So, in a similar manner, the heat in the body builds up from the sludge, and the dead blood cells, and in the form of like high blood pressure and stuff, which Hijama is excellent for high blood pressure, and it extracts those dead blood cells. The important thing to know here is that it's not the amount of blood that you're taking out. And everywhere you see these people pumping and pumping and pumping, trying to get more blood, I'll get more money, or I'll put on more cups, I'll get more money. Or, take more, I'll get my money's worth, then I don't want to have to come back in 6 months. I want you to do it all now. And it's insane. But that's human nature. They think that, more is better. And they put more cups on you, and you see these pictures on the internet, people covered with cups, and it's so dangerous. It's just crazy. And pumping is for, taking water out of a well. It's not for taking blood out of a body. You don't pump blood out of the body. You have a heart that acts as a pump that is regulated and taking out the exact amount that you need. And the heat from the cup is enough to extract and regulate the pressure that is necessary to take out the dead blood cells, not, huge amounts of blood. So our teacher was telling us that you have to take 50 bites of food. 1, 2, 3. I mean, that's a lot. That's more than what you would consume in maybe several meals. And out of those 50 bites, you will produce one small drop of blood. So it takes quite a while for your body to rejuvenate that blood, and it is not something that you should be wasting, because you're extracting, when you're using these pumps, you're extracting the healthy blood. So getting back to the importance of having a true expert and a true, authorized person teach you these things, is it's absolutely critically important to know the source of knowledge that you're, using. Because even like really well-respected people in the Islamic field, like Sheikh Hamza Yusuf, is really giving out bad information about Hijama. And what he's logically thinking in his mind is that they took out a lot of blood when they did the Hijama for me, and this was a good thing, and it's not a good thing. And he left people with the impression, unintentionally of course, but he left people with the impression based on what he said, that, a lot of blood extracted from a Hijama session is something that's good, and it's absolutely not good. Quite the opposite. So even if somebody possesses, a certain amount of respect or knowledge, it doesn't necessarily mean that they're an expert in, another field. So Hijama is a very, easy discipline to learn, and that's, one of the risks and problems involved with the Hijama industry right now, is because it is technically so easy to learn, especially with these stupid pumps. Anybody can put a cup on and pump it, and it will, suffice, or apparently suffice. It's really doing damage. And we'll get into that and some of the reasons why it's not a good idea to be doing that. But the point is to reiterate and emphasize the fact that you have to have a teacher that you can rely on in the field specifically that you're trying to gain knowledge in. So we will go over the rules and regulations of Hijama, but more importantly, we're trying to get into the spiritual connection that is necessary to have in order to be a good healer. And we'll touch upon different areas, like Masori Emoto's energy resonance, and we'll talk about, different modalities and things that, truly make somebody a healer, and what, like the faith tradition of the Jewish religion does with certain things, and how they teach. So it should be a really informative, interesting course, and 10, classes should be enough to give people enough of an understanding to know what a true, Hijama practitioner is, and to be able to differentiate between those who are just claiming to be Hijama practitioners and those who truly have an ijaza and able to, honestly take care of the people that are coming to them for help. So there's a number of things, and what we also want to stress is that the healing doesn't come from the practitioner. It really doesn't even come from the herb that you might give somebody as medicine. It certainly doesn't come from the prescription drugs that they're handing out like candy to people. Every single disease has a corresponding cure, but nonetheless, that cure only comes from one source, and that source is the Creator, is from God. So the practitioner is someone who is just simply trying to get out of the way. They're acting as a conduit, but they're certainly not the source of any kind of healing. So don't believe for a second that, you're going to the practitioner and the practitioner is healing you, or what he's doing or what he's giving you is healing you. There's a prescribed method. There's keys that you enter and you can open. And these prescribed methods of Hijama and herbs and different things are only those keys to open those locks, which will enable you to receive from God the cure. So there's of course known modalities and methods for doing this stuff, and they've been prescribed through the examples of Prophet Muhammad ﷺ and passed down from generation to generation. So there are certain methodologies for this kind of stuff, but we must never forget that the cure comes from the Creator. And a lot of hijama and a lot of really medicine in general that should be more closely associated with belief and religion and spirituality, but it's not, because it's been driven out of the sciences. You go to college now, you don't learn anything about religion. It's all considered to be, a big joke if you teach religion in school, other than a philosophical way. So, this separation of science and religion is just, an absurd concept, especially when you're talking with, health and healing, because you can't, possibly help a human being without addressing the spiritual nature of that person. There's so much depression now, and the psychiatric industry, I think, came up with over 5,000 new psychological, definitions over the last year alone, which have made it into the physician's desk reference. And of course, every time they come up with a new, psychological illness, my favorite now is the one that you see on television. Was it binge eating disorder? That one cracks me up. But every new illness that they come up with a corresponding pill to give you, which of course means huge amounts of money for them. So it's all market driven and money driven, and it's lost its spiritual connection, which is why people are racing and running towards alternative practitioners and alternative medicine and herbal medicine, because they're tired of it. They're sick of the prices. They're sick of going into a doctor and seeing them for 5 or 6 years over chronic illness, and the doctor never actually ever touches the patient. All they do is look at the blood work and arrive at a pill that they're supposed to take, and then that pill causes side effects, and they require another pill a few months from that point, and it's just a spiral down. So I don't have to tell most of you that are taking this course about that. You know that probably better than I do. But this connection between spirituality and it's probably a good time to tell you, I don't care if you're Jewish or Buddhist or Muslim or Christian or Taoist, or it makes no difference to me what you label yourself as. Your label is not important. What's important to me is you're somebody who is sincere and somebody who has a good heart and somebody who has a purity and able to have the humility to learn, and somebody who has a reverence to want to truly help your fellow human being. So it's really comes down to who is open to any truth from any direction. So if you can convince me that something is certain, something is true, I'm going to incorporate it into my life because I want to make my life better. I want to get closer to my Creator, and I want to increase my spiritual stations. So anything from anybody, any religion, because they all possess, an amount of truth, is presented to me, and it makes sense. I'm going to incorporate it into my life, and that's what we should all be, as truth seekers, not, these people put labels on ourselves like you're a football fan, and I love the Patriots, and why do you love the Patriots? All the players are dispersed from, different states, and none of them are actual residents of that, state, and who said they're good people? They're just football people who, partied all the way through school and did all sorts of, bad behaviors through college, and now they're playing professional ball. And why are you so loyal to that football team or that basketball team or that baseball team? And I mean, these people become crazy, fans over something that's just really ridiculous. So, in that manner, our religion becomes this, fan-based identity that we fight to the death to protect, who we are. And you forget about humanity, and you forget about, truth, and everything goes by the wayside, and it just all becomes identity. So that's not what we're interested here, and certainly you'll find a lot of that within the Islamic faith today, and that's not what I subscribe to. The Islam that you see prevalent in the media anyway, the Islam I prescribe to is a religion of love and respect and beauty, and it's hopefully you'll get a sense of that over the course of these next 10 classes. So it's super important not to, take these identities too far, and to try to, humble ourselves and be that conduit for good healing that you must be in order to be an effective Hijama practitioner. So we welcome you. We will be talking more, and there's no homework for this class, just the introductory kind of orientation, as I said. The next class, there'll probably be an assignment, and I'm not, a stickler on assignments necessarily, but they're necessary in order to get people engaged in the knowledge that they heard, and I want people to reflect and think about what has been said. So the only way I can be sure that people reflect and think about that is that I give them, a couple questions that they reflect on, and then write, some short essays on it. So those assignments will be due the following course. We'll have probably 2 days. It'll be structured 2 days a week. I won't say specifically this class, but there's a website where you'll go and get all the information for that particular class, and you'll be receiving an email on that. You already, have received that. Most of you already looked at the website. And each week there'll be a new website and a new video, approximately an hour long, 50 minutes, thereabouts. And there'll be any assignment work or whatnot will be on that new webpage. And shortly after this class, you'll be receiving the information for the next class. I'll tell you the time and the date. And, then when we're done with the 10 classes, there'll be a bit of a kind of a final exam that will judge your overall, understanding of the knowledge that you'd received. And based on those results, we'll, select those people who we think are capable of moving on. And don't feel bad if you don't move on. I mean, you shouldn't feel bad that you're not an Olympic athlete if you're, 4 foot 2 inches. You can't possibly think that you're going to play basketball for a professional basketball team, even though you may be really good, for the height that you are, you're not going to be able to compete against the other people who are, much taller. So in this way, we're trying to find what we're natural at and what we're supposed to be doing. And that's the process of this ijaza, is to identify those people who have that inherent ability to heal. And not everybody possesses that, and not everybody should possess that, because we need, people from all different walks of life doing all sorts of different things. And if, you don't have people excelling in different areas and enjoying what they're doing, then we're all going to end up doing the same thing, and that wouldn't be very much of a productive society to have everybody doing the exact same thing. So it's a huge blessing and benefit that, we're talented and good at the certain things that we're talented and good at. And it's not for us to decide that. That's why we have this ijaza system of teaching. It's for somebody who's been, identified as somebody with that talent that can see it in others, that is best to judge. So, you can argue that that person really doesn't know what he's talking about, and that's okay. I guess you can make that argument and go off and get one of these certificates from the certificate mills, and many people have done so. But you should accept, that it's not maybe for you, and you can take the course over again and pursue it again. But usually the first time around, we're going to probably see pretty clearly who has the ability to continue and who doesn't. But those who do show that promise, congratulations, and, it's not necessarily something to congratulate people with, because it's a heavy burden doing this kind of work. It's not an easy thing to do, and you're not going to get rich doing it, because it's not about the money. And if it is about the money, we're going to do our very best to find out that that's what's motivating you, and we're not going to let you continue anyway. So be warned, and I don't think we're going to be tricked. But if you think you can trick us, then most welcome. Go ahead and try. But it's critically important to understand that this is, something that is not to be played with, and it's something that's very serious, and it will really harm you if we, ask you to go on and continue doing something that you're not naturally inclined to be able to do. Because if you can't do it, it will chew you up. It'll, eventually it'll be too heavy on you. Because you encounter a lot of heavy things, including, a lot of people come now for black magic and all this other stuff. I mean, there's too much of an emphasis on that now. And too many people are getting cheated left and right. And they have no idea what they're dealing with or what they're, doing. It does help, and there are prescribed methods for helping people like that. But, working with them is no easy matter. It is, not something that people that are not equipped to be able to do should go anywhere near. So we're doing you a favor by telling you not to continue if we do tell you not to continue. But take the knowledge, hopefully, that you've learned in this introductory course, and then, share it with others, and hopefully we'll preserve this important sunnah of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And, then you'll be able to go and actually, feel comfortable that you're truly in the hands of a qualified practitioner when you're seeking out the services of somebody yourself. And I would encourage you to do that. So, we'll talk about age restrictions and, when you should have hijama, when you shouldn't. All that will be covered in the class. And then I think there's one other thing I wanted to talk about. That was, see, I leave myself to last because I don't like talking about myself. But it is important in the vein of understanding who the teacher is and whether they're authorized to give a little bit of a history of myself. I was invited to an Imam Khatib program at Abu Nur University in Damascus, Syria. And that's a school that many people that have come back to the United States that, claim to be sheikhs are using as their credentials for being a sheikh. But I can tell you university course and system is not the way to gain the knowledge that you need to be a sheikh. No matter what people are laying claim to, university education is not the method. It never was the method. It's not the method of the Sahaba. It wasn't the method of the disciples of Christ. They didn't go to university to learn what they learned. They sat at the feet of their teacher, their sheikh, their prophet, and they sat in circles of knowledge. And the entire 24 hours a day was a living experience, because the prophet, like Moses' teacher, this is the question maybe to ask, how did Moses' teacher, and go ahead and read that in Surat Al-Kahf in the Quran if you can get a hold of it. So maybe there's an assignment for this course, but it's voluntary. I might be making that the assignment later, though, so you get a leg up if you do it now. But Moses' teacher, how did he know that the king was coming? And, did he have a spy that was, calling him on his cell phone and saying, hey, king is coming, or hey, Al-Qidr, the king is coming. He's going to destroy that guy's boat. He told me. It's silly. It was, through his spiritual stations, it's through his knowledge that he understood those things. And the question then is, are there people today that have that spiritual station, that spiritual knowledge? And the answer is, an absolute yes. And you have to seek those people out. And you have to know when you meet one, because many of us meet them and, like Moses, we don't have the patience to listen to them. And then, once we, have even figured out that is one, it's, sometimes too late. So, again, not laying claim that I'm one of those people. Bits and pieces and tastes that makes me know that absolutely it's real. But I can absolutely assure you that the people that I've had the fortune of learning from are those people. So we went to Damascus, and this is where, I had the good fortune of running into those people, that they exist. There's 124,000 saints alive today. And most of those saints are hidden because we're in a huge age of ignorance right now, just an enormous age. And it is, apparent everywhere you turn that, Islam is just on its back. It's not thriving. It's not benefiting anybody because it's just, being practiced and promoted by just ugly people that are not really truly following it. But there are people out there, and the sincere will find them if they keep, looking for them. They'll eventually, stumble upon them or be introduced to them or something. And if you, run into a bad teacher, you'll get by that and eventually find a good one if you're truly sincere. So you just have to keep kind of plugging away at it. But Damascus was one of these places where they were extremely prevalent and they were open and out. And you could, go to certain mosques and certain holy places and, there would be, a concentration of them there. And if you're getting closer to, having a pure heart, you recognize them more and more and more. And these are the people that have the true knowledge, the real knowledge, the, knowledge that can be poured into your heart. Not, sit down, study, and memorize this, and, you'll get an exam on, this and that and this and that. And, I'm using these questions as kind of an exam to get people engaged in thinking about what has been said, because otherwise I don't know whether they, really gave any thought to what was talked about here or not. So exams on some schedule are productive, but for the most part, it's a heart-to-heart, kind of connection, heart-to-heart training that is necessary to truly raise human beings. And, what's the definition of a holy person? A holy person is somebody who is whole. They're a whole human being. They've, done what is necessary through meditative exercises and, doing the things that are prescribed for a human being to do to improve themselves and to become a human being and to throw off their animal nature. And as you progress through that, you get higher and higher and higher and you can have the patience to, listen to these people and learn from them. And then you start getting, little tidbits of, the flashes of, hidden kind of information that the teacher of Moses, had to be able to understand that the king was coming to destroy that boat. And he had the authority from God, not from his own mind or thinking, well, I'll just destroy the boat first and save it. No, it was an order from God that told him to do that. So he wasn't breaking any, laws. He was obeying the law. It's a fine distinction between the two. So it's a subject that most Muslims don't have any concept of. And the problem is today is that the authorized teachers of the past are becoming fewer and fewer and fewer as time goes on. And while people today claiming to have a connection to an authorized teacher truly believe that teacher was authorized and that therefore they're authorized now, there was no permission to continue that chain of authorization. So there's a lot of people, that are related to people that were authorized and believe that they're authorized now, but they're really truly not authorized. So it makes it even more complicated. So when I say that, there's 124,000 saints and most of them are, hiding right now, we're kind of in this waiting mode for Jesus, alayhi salam, to return and for Imam Mahdi to make an appearance. Because without them, this situation that we're currently in is not going to turn around. So for those of you who are, not Muslim, and you're hearing maybe a lot of things that you're not so familiar with, and don't worry about that so much. It's more, the sincere heart and the nature to be a healer that we're trying to find in you. And again, what you call yourself and what you label yourself is of little interest to me right now. So if you don't understand something, go ahead and shoot me an email and ask me, more questions. Try to respect my time and not carry on a conversation, but truly give thought to what you're asking and, try to accept what you're being given as an answer without, entering into a long conversation that would take up too much of my time, because there's, a number of students that can be taught through this mechanism of the internet and the methodology that I'm using. So keep that in mind when you're trying to correspond. And then also keep in mind that, we might be covering some of the questions that you may have a little bit further in depth as we progress. So you might want to hold off a lot of those questions until the end of the course. But write them down and, then we'll exchange. And those who go on to getting an ijaza, you have carte blanche to ask all the questions you want, and you will be given, extraordinary amount of time. And again, that's all free. That's, it becomes our pleasure and our honor and really our obligation to do these things, because it's, so important for the sunnah to be protected, and it doesn't, get hijacked by the sports medicine people or the, cupping people or the fake Hijama practitioner people. So we welcome you. I'm very pleased and happy that you have taken the time to sign up for the course. And we hope that you find it incredibly beneficial and useful, not because of anything we say or do, but because of the connection that we have to authentic teaching. We hope that you come to understand that teaching. We hope that you come to understand the true system of ijaza and the importance of that. And we hope that you come to understand this healing nature and spiritual nature that is required to effectuate good health in people that, again, only comes from God Almighty. So, for the honor of the most honored amongst creation, Sayyidina Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Surat al-Fatiha. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, alhamdulillah rabbil alameen. Ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, maliki yawmiddin, iyyaka na'budu wa iyyaka nasta'in, ihdina as-siratal mustaqim. Siratal ladzina an'amta alaihim, ghayril maghdubi alaihim waladdallin. Ameen. Shukr Allah. Thank you very much for showing, and we'll see you next class.